para to address the need for more buses and vehicles for the face-to-face classes. Kasama po ang jeepney at saka UV Express doon sa i-reopen natin ng mga ruta.
The MMDA will also deploy additional ferries along Pasig River and will still provide free rides using MMDA buses from Commonwealth Avenue to Welcome Rotonda from 6 to 8 a.m. Some clearing of road obstructions are also ongoing to help address the traffic congestion. George Cahiles, CNN Philippines.
Expect a decision on fare hike petitions before classes resume. The LTFRB says it's still waiting for the National Economic and Development Authority to submit a position by Wednesday, August 17th. Bus groups have been appealing for a 4 to 7 peso fare hike and more adjustments beyond the first 5 kilometers. A commuters protection group urges the board not to increase bus fares by over 2 pesos, while drivers and operators hope officials will heed their pleas as they grapple with high fuel prices. LTFRB Chairperson Cheloy Garafil says the board will release a decision by next week.
We recognize that there's really yung gas prices ay talagang tumaas na since the last fare increase ng mga buses. But we also recognize na magkakaroon talaga ito ng impact sa ating mga pasahero. That's why we're very, very careful. Babalansin talaga po natin.
Bus fares were last raised in 2018 when fuel cost 44 pesos per liter. No talks yet on making similar implementing rules for the no-contact apprehension policy here in Metro Manila, but the Metro Manila Development Authority says it is open to discussing the matter. The new system captures traffic violations through cameras. It is in effect in the cities of Manila, Valenzuela, Parañaque, and Quezon City.
That is something that can be discussed po, pero then again, the MMDA recognizes po the local autonomy of our local government units at for now we respect their own version of the no-contact apprehension program.
The Land Transportation Office, meanwhile, says local governments have agreed to review guidelines in light of complaints from public utility vehicle operators. The regulator earlier called for the suspension of the policy as it seeks to iron out the rules. President Bongbong Marcos says he's working with Congress for the creation of the Virology Institute and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The chief executive notes the passage of these priority measures will prepare the country for any future outbreaks.
We have been in consultation with the House of Representatives and the Senate to create these agencies so that we can bring them to bear in what we are up to now continuing to have to fight. We will continue to work so that our people are safer, so that our citizens have better access to health care, and so that the quality of our health care will improve.
Senate President Mig Zubiri has committed to work double time to pass the key measures, and that it should have been Virology Institute. The COVID-19 vaccination law may be at risk of, or may no longer be in effect at least 1 month from now. As Caroline Bonkin reports, the health officer in charge calls for amendments to the law so that vaccination efforts will be unhampered in case the president lifts the state of calamity declaration.
Shaira Nicole Valencia is a postgraduate intern at Manila Med. She had a hard time getting a second COVID booster shot because of her long shift. She took the chance when the hospital offered vaccines on Wednesday.
Busy schedule, kaya hindi rin po makapagpa-vaccine agad. As an additional protection din dahil sabi nga nila para tumataas ulit yung kaso ng COVID. Para walang maging problema sa work.
Almost halfway through the president's first 100 days in office, the vaccine coverage has hardly moved. Based on the government's daily target, over 5 million people should have been vaccinated from July 26 to August 7. But the actual turnout, only over 440,000 vaccinees. This leaves over 22 million people yet to get boosted and over 2 million senior citizens to complete doses by October 8.
We cannot say it's effective or not until we go on and reach our target timeline. Ang mga tao nasa trabaho, nasa kanilang mga ginagawa during the weekday, no? So kailangan lamang po natin bigyan pa ng more push.
DOH wants more vaccination on weekends and in hard-to-reach areas. With the possible lifting of state of calamity, Vergeres says there's a need to amend the COVID Vaccination Program Act to ensure the vaccination doesn't stop. The law is only effective while the country is under a state of calamity.
Dito po nakataya ang mga EUA ng ating bakuna, nakatali ang emergency procurement na atin pong nagagawa because of the pandemic. And nakatali din po dito ang pagkontrol natin ng presyo ng iba't ibang commodities because of the pandemic.
Senator Juan Miguel Zubiri says the Senate will look into it.
Kung time-bound siya, di-extend natin yung validity ng batas. Para sa ganun, may kapangyarihan po ang DOH na ituloy ang kanilang mga programa.
This law allows the national and local governments and the private sector to buy COVID-19 vaccines for emergency use. This means allowing use of COVID-19 vaccines, which are all still completing the final phase of the trial. It exempts vaccines from import duties, taxes, and other fees, which means getting supplies at a lower cost. The law also allows allocation of funds to compensate death, permanent disability, or hospital confinement due to COVID-19 vaccines, and enables licensed pharmacists and midwives as vaccinators. Caroline Bongkin, CNN Philippines.
Up next, regulators are facing an investigation over a supposedly illegal resolution to import sugar, and tributes pour in for sprint queen Lydia De Vega, who reached the finish line after a battle with cancer. Newsnight will be right back. This is Newsnight on CNN Philippines. Sugar regulators now facing an investigation over a supposed illegal resolution allowing the importation of hundreds of thousands of metric tons of the commodity. Rex Remigio has more details.
Why did the Sugar Regulatory Administration issue a resolution directing the importation of 300,000 metric tons of sugar without the President's knowledge? This is one of the questions that have to be answered as Malacanang launches an investigation. As the Sugar Regulatory Board Chair, only President Marcos has the power to convene the board and set the meeting's agenda. Press Secretary Trixie Angeles explains the board cannot convene in the President's absence unless he allowed it. Angeles says the President did not authorize the meeting nor the so-called Resolution Number 4 on the importation of 300,000 metric tons of sugar. She also says the Chief Executive did not authorize Agriculture Undersecretary Leocadio Sebastian to sign the resolution. The Press Secretary adds Sebastian's assignment is only to represent the President in meetings that the President cannot attend.
Importations are a sensitive matter. particularly with regard to agricultural importations. Sugar is one such importation which we take great care with. It is a balancing act.
Secretary Angeles explains they need to balance the welfare of consumers and farmers. More imports when there's enough supply could depress sugar prices and reduce farmers' income. Angeles says the harvest season is near and the country already imported 200,000 metric tons last May.
An investigation is ongoing to determine whether any acts that would cause the president to lose trust and confidence in his officials can be found, or if there is malice or negligence involved. In such a case, if such findings are made, then the only determination left will be how many heads are going to roll.
The press secretary says the president will follow due process on the investigation. Meanwhile, Angeles says Executive Secretary Vic Rodriguez has ordered the creation of an importation plan to study how imports could affect the coming harvest. This will also be the basis for the president's decision if it's really necessary. Rex Remitio, CNN Philippines.
Malacanang says it will allow those involved to explain their side, but they may face penalties if the president is not satisfied with their explanation. ABS-CBN Corporation, which failed to have its broadcast franchise renewed in Congress 2 years ago, will become a minority shareholder of TV5. ABS-CBN announced it will acquire a nearly 35% stake in TV5 for 2.16 billion pesos. ABS-CBN further said it will increase its ownership to nearly half, or 49.92% after 8 years. Manny Pangilinan-led Media Quest Holdings remains the majority shareholder of TV5. Media Quest Signal Cable is also acquiring a 38.88% stake in ABS-CBN's Sky Cable. Both networks are optimistic the buy-in will enhance TV5's capability to deliver content and coverage. The National Telecommunications Commission is now looking to review ABS-CBN's supposed violations, which led to the non-renewal of its franchise in the previous Congress. The NTC says the Justice Department, Land Registration Authority, and the Philippine Competition Commission, or PCC, will help out with the review, while the PCC says it has not been consulted about the buy-in. ABS-CBN has maintained that it complied with laws in its previous franchise. The Bureau of Internal Revenue and the Securities and Exchange Commission also said in 2020 the embattled media giant did not violate any corporate law.
Vice Chairman Boy, maaari po, Mr. Gabby Lopez. Your lawyer...
It's not really a question of fact, it's a question of law.
No, it's a question of fact. Isn't that like... Yun lang naman ang tanong ko. Thank you. That's all.
News overseas now. Uncertainty looms following China's military drills around Taiwan, triggered by the visit of United States House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to the island. Beijing says it has completed its mission and yet is planning to conduct regular patrols near Taipei. Tristan Adalo reports Filipinos in Taiwan are concerned for their safety.
China calls its series of military exercises around Taiwan a success and now eyes to hold regular patrols around the island. Beijing says the recent joint military drills showcase its combat capabilities from long-range live fire drills, conventional missile tests, and air and submarine control operations.
近期在台岛周边海空域，战区部队将紧盯台海形势变化，持续开展练兵备战。
Over in Taipei, overseas Filipino worker and community leader Hilda Banugan says they have yet to receive information on the plans of the government amid the rising tensions. They even wrote a letter to Philippine officials in Taiwan to raise their concerns.
Nagpanik po yung ating mga kababayan on the first day, second day, kung ano yung kanilang mga plano at kung sakaling meron ba silang mga kinakasang mga pagpapatawag sa mga community groups, leaders. So, sinasabi po natin sa kanila na baka i-include tayo, baka kung sakaling magkaroon sila ng meeting, ay i-invite naman tayo para maging preparado rin naman tayo.
Newly appointed Overseas Workers Welfare Administration Chief Arnel Ignacio and the Foreign Affairs Department say there are contingency plans in place for Filipinos in Taiwan.
OWA, lagi naman kami nakamonitor. So, in the event na mag-escalate ito, nakahanda naman tayo.
There are always contingency plans in place. They are in fact in touch with employers, with local companies, and with the Filipino community leaders to implement these contingency plans in case.
China maintains that their military drills around Taiwan are justified and legitimate and will serve as a warning to any provocative moves. In Beijing, China, Tristan Udalo, CNN Philippines.
Back home, the Philippine tarsier finds its way to Tacloban, Leyte. While tarsiers can be found in Leyte and nearby islands, it is the first time for the endangered species to be spotted in the province's capital. The University of the Philippines Visayas Tacloban validated the presence of the tarsier in a forest after reported sightings in neighboring towns. Researchers say the presence of the species in Tacloban highlights the city as a key biodiversity area. Up ahead, Asia's fastest woman, Lydia De Vega, runs her final race after a 4-year battle with cancer. And NBA star Jalen Green is in Manila once again for a series of events with the sportswear brand. Keep it here on Newsnight.
Life is many.
the Asian Games, and the Asian Athletics Championships. She also represented the country in the 1984 and 1988 Olympics. For De Vega, there was nothing quite like competing for the country.
It's really fun, exciting, kasi iba yung pag nagko-compete ka sa sarili mong bansa, nandiyan yung mga Pilipino talaga na sumusuporta sa'yo, nagdadasal para sa'yo. Actually, even though na sa ibang bansa kami nagko-compete, I know naman na yung mga Filipino people hindi kami pinababayaan. But then pagka nagko-compete ka sa sarili mong bansa, mas iba yung feelings niya.
She held the 100-meter and 200-meter run national records for over 3 decades. De Vega was also once known as the darling of Philippine sports. So the news of her passing due to cancer broke the hearts of many. Her daughter Stephanie said De Vega fought the very good fight and is now at peace. The sports icon retired from competition in 1994. She was last seen by the public in 2019 when she carried the SEA Games Federation flag along with 7 other Filipino world champions. In that same event, pole vaulter E.J. Obiena was the country's flag bearer. Obiena earlier pledged to help De Vega.
First of all, I wouldn't be here without her. You can't say track and field without saying Lydia. So I wouldn't be Ernest John Obiena, the pole vaulter, without Lydia De Vega, the sprint queen. So it's just a simple way to say, thank you.
New Day host Christine Jacob Sandejas, who was De Vega's fellow Olympian, has nothing but praises for the sprint queen.
Lydia was an amazing athlete. She was home trained, never trained abroad at all. Considering all the accolades that she has, accomplished and accumulated throughout her athletic career, she remained so humble, down to earth, and she was she was so kalog, kumbaga. I mean, she was such a wonderful person to begin with. But what really stood out with her most of all was that she made it on her own.
To young Filipino athletes also hoping to make it on their own, just remember what the track and field legend once said.
Kasi ang pagiging atleta po hindi madali eh. Kailangan mo talagang pagbuhusan to ng panahon. Kailangan pagbuhusan mo to ng maraming disiplina. Kailangan mo rin yung iyong dream ay hindi mawala. You don't give up. Kasi ako po hindi po ako nag-give up.
Felix with that report. Honoring the late track and field icon, personalities from sports and beyond paid tribute to De Vega. In a statement, President Marcos expressing his condolences to Lydia's loved ones and said, quote, "She has fought a good fight. Let us pray for her peace." House Speaker Martin Romualdez calls her one of the greatest Pinoy athletes. He also highlighted the need to support Filipinos in sports, not only while they are competing, but also in retirement. De Vega's family asked for financial help last month after the athlete underwent many procedures, including brain surgery. Bowling legend Paeng Nepomuceno says De Vega's death is a sad day for Philippine sports. Nepomuceno and De Vega served as flag bearers in the 2019 Southeast Asian Games here at home. Another sports great, 8th Division boxing world champ Manny Pacquiao says Lydia's success helped shine a light on the Philippines. Houston Rockets guard Jalen Green is making the most of his trip back to the country for a tour with a sportswear brand. Fans' anticipation on his third visit has reached fever pitch now that he is a legit NBA star. Pauline Versosa gives us the details.
After a stellar rookie year in the NBA, Filipino-American Jalen Green makes his way back to the Philippines. This marks the third time the 20-year-old athlete is visiting the country and his first as an NBA player. The Houston Rockets high-flying guard admits he's overwhelmed by the unwavering support of Filipino fans since the beginning of his young basketball career.
Coming here to the Philippines, everyone gives so much love and support. So to come back and give my love and support back to them, it means the world to me. And then to change since from when I was in high school, came here my sophomore, junior year, to now, it's still been the same, and I appreciate everyone for keeping that same love and energy.
While on an exclusive tour with a sports apparel brand, Green says he looks forward to not only reconnecting with his fans, but also exploring more of his Filipino heritage, with his mother tracing her roots in Ilocos Sur.
Just being here with all the people, seeing all the fans, and going back to my family's hometown and just seeing what the culture is like there.
As the second overall pick by the Rockets in the 2021 rookie draft, Green is only the third NBA player with Filipino descent. He's also considered one of the league's most promising young stars, averaging 17.3 points, 3.4 rebounds, and 2.6 assists per game in his rookie year. For the next season, Green says he's set to bounce back from the team's dismal campaign, with the Rockets finishing dead last with 20 wins and 62 losses.
My mindset is just to go in and be the best version of myself on and off the court. Like I said, try to build a winning mentality. The thing with my team, like you said, we're very young, so we're in a rebuild right now, trying to get everyone on the same page, trying to grow in the right direction.
The new NBA season will tip off in October. Pauline Versosa, CNN Philippines.
Stay tuned for CNN Philippines Conversation with Jalen Green live tomorrow on Sports Desk at 10 a.m. The countdown to Drag Race Philippines just got more exciting. 3 more personalities have been cast as rotating guest judges. Photographer BJ Pascual, actor John Santos, and fashion designer Rajo Laurel are joining the likes of comedian Kalad Karen and Drag Race legend Jiggly Caliente. Drag Race Philippines premieres August 17th, hosted by TV actor Paolo Ballesteros. And that is it for now. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pio Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
Radio Philippines Network Incorporated, DXKO. 13.68 sa dial sa inyong radyo. RPN DXKO, ang Radyo Ronda dili sa Dakbayan sa Cagayan de Oro. Sibiyahan na may galaon sa katawhan, andam mo serbisyo sa tanan. Ang RPN DXKO Radyo Ronda sakop sa KBP, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
You're still in politics as usual. From Senate Minority Leader Coco Pimentel, join me now this time is the Minority Leader of the House of Representatives. Ang pagtibayin at palaguin ang pangkabuhayang Pilipino or the 4Ps Party List Representative Marcelino Nonoy Libanan. Ang haba nun, Kong Nonoy, thank you very much for joining us. Kasi before, let's get this out of the way first. No? So, you're being introduced, you are a party list representative now, but you used to be a district representative, Eastern Samar, right? So just a little bit of your political history, your political career history.
I won as a congressman in 1998 with the Partido ng Masang Pilipino. Then I joined the Nationalist People's Coalition in my second term. And that is where I won also in my third term.
3 terms.
After that,
yeah.
3 terms congressman. Then I was appointed as Commissioner of Immigration from 2007 to 2010.
The last 3 years of the Arroyo administration. What happened then afterwards, 2010 to 2021, 2022?
I opened the law office and practiced my profession as a lawyer.
Okay. So matagal na rin po kayong wala sa politika and then ngayon lang kayo bumalik. Pero bakit na lang hindi kayo tumakbo sa Eastern Samar ulit? Why did you choose to be a party list representative?
You know, it was pandemic time and I had a meeting with Chairman Ben Abalos. I was in Manila and we're talking about providing livelihood to those victimized by this pandemic, by the incoming effects of to our economy. So ang inisip namin, paano namin matulungan ang pangkabuhayan ng mahihirap. Kaya nagbuo po kami ng 4Ps na party list. Yun po, doon po nagsimula.
Although, of course, Kong Nonoy, you're not the only party list representative who used to be a district representative. Marami naman talaga kayo, no? And a lot of people have taken notice of that. But also, I wanted to ask you about this story that's been going around. So tell us the truth about this. Na ang sabi daw, paano siya naging minority leader? Paano siya naging minority kung ito daw nangyari nung pumunta daw si BBM sa Eastern Samar and ikaw daw yung nag-introduce or something. Meron ganung umiikot na kwento. So what happened there? What is the truth there?
Tama po naman yun. Nagpunta sa akin si President Bongbong Marcos nung campaign period at ako ang nag-introduce sa kanya doon sa Eastern Samar dahil buong Samar yata wala pa siyang nakakausap. Magkakilala na kami noon at sinabi niya dadalaw siya. At pinakaunang ang engagement niya. It was his first engagement in the Visayas where they met with Vice President Sara Duterte.
That's right. Nagkasabay kayo sa Congress because President Marcos used to be a congressman also at the time that you were there. But itong...
No.
Yes. Hindi ba? Hindi pala.
Hindi po kami Senadora Amy ang naging kasabayan ko po. But we are both waray-warays. We are from
Yes.
Region 8.
Right. Samar and Leyte.
Magkaibigan na kami. Opo, magkaibigan na kami noon pa. Way back 1992.
Okay. So you are with the How did you end up in the minority then?
Ang magandang tanong mo yan, Pia. Alam mo, maraming hindi nakakaintindi. Pero kung titingnan natin ang ating history sa ating political system, 1935, mayroon tayong bipartisan Congress, di ba? So may majority tayo, may minority tayo. Ang natatalo, yun ang minority, yung nananalo, yun ang majority. Kahit ngayon sa Amerika, ganun pa rin, majority and minority. So kung sinong maraming nananalo na Republicans or Democrats, yun ang nagiging majority or minority sa Amerika. And usually sa Amerika, kahit Democrats, minority sila sa Congress. Pero sa Senate, majority sila ngayon. Pero tumakbo ang ating political history na nagkaroon tayo ng unicameral system of government. Hanggang ngayon, mayroon na tayong 1987 Constitution. Ano naman ang 1987 Constitution? Ang 1987 Constitution, mayroon tayong multi-party system at may party list pa tayo na ang dami na po sa Kongreso. Dito naman, sa ating Constitution, sa 1987 Constitution, ang mandate sa atin is to elect the Speaker and organize and choose as other officers as it may deem necessary sa Kongreso. So ano bang nagiging major officers dito? Ang majority at minority. So kung sino ang buboto sa Speaker, yun po ang majority. Kung hindi ka bumoto sa Speaker, you are expected that you will join the minority and elect also the officers. Anong pagkakaiba? Hindi necessarily that you come from the opposition. Wala doon sa rules na you shall be opposing always. But you shall perform the job of the minority. You have to send the voice of the minority to the halls of Congress. Yun po ang aming gagawin and we shall be vigilant to all the bills proposed and passed at yun po ang babantayan po namin. Alam mo, Pia, 25 lang ho kami sa minority. Ngayon, sa ngayon. It is now a matter of choice kung saan ka pupunta. Kung pupunta ka sa majority or sa minority. Na nagbutan po kami sa minority, ako ang ibinuto. So I will do my job. I will do my job na gamitin ko yung aking nalalaman sa rules on parliamentary procedure na may paabot yung mga boses ng minority pero hindi naman obstructionist na minority. Kailangan din matuto tayong makipag-isa kung magaganda namang mga batas, di ba? But we have to scrutinize, ipakita natin yung iba't ibang sides. Mag-aaral natin kami dito ng maigi.
In a way, tulad ng sinabi ni Senator Coco Pimentel kanina na Senate Minority Leader, medyo kulang nga po lang po yung oras natin ngayong gabi, Kong Nonoy, so sayang. Pero maraming salamat po. Thank you. Not just for guesting the show, but also for that political history 101 lesson. We'll have you again on the show, sir, I'm sure. Salamat po. Kong Nonoy Libanan, the Minority Leader of the House of Representatives. Thank you so much, sir. We've been told before, don't talk politics at the dinner table or the family reunion or in a Viber group or group chats and risk warfare, digital and otherwise. But we can talk about it here at this table on this show. Your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. I'm Pia Ontiveros. See you back here next Wednesday, 8 p.m. From the Senate to the House of Representatives, allies of President Bongbong Marcos take the reins to form a supermajority in both chambers. The Senate and House minority blocs, on the other hand, remain steadfast despite being noticeably outnumbered. And in his first State of the Nation address, President Marcos promises migrant workers better support from the government. Good evening, I'm Pia Ontiveros. Welcome to your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. Our first guest tonight, OFW advocate and now Migrant Workers Chief, Secretary Toots Ople, joining us via Zoom. Secretary Toots, thank you so much for being with us tonight on Politics as Usual. Let's begin with several points that the President brought up during his SONA. I wanted to ask you first because syempre hindi naman niya pwedeng i-detalye masyado, no? So this is going to be the job of the Department Secretary. So let's ask you first about these automating the verification of contracts and yung issuing secure overseas employment certifications, yung mga OECs. How is that going to work?
Yes, we're engaged in talks with the DICT. I found out, Pia, upon my assumption as Secretary of Migrant Workers, that there were a lot of redundant steps, and there's a need to automate so that our OFWs won't need to line up in the different polo offices abroad and also here at the POEA as much as we can. If they can submit their requirements via e-submission. And then for their OEC, if it's something that can be stored in their phones, it can be paperless, and there will be a corresponding technology on the part of the Bureau of Immigration, so they can just check the digital version of the OEC. That's where we are headed, Pia.
Okay, in other words, wag na natin silang pahirapan dahil hirap na hirap sila para magtrabaho sa abroad, pahirapan pa natin sila bago pa sila umalis. At the same time, very interesting what you brought up, Secretary Toots, no? Yung redundancy, and this is not just for OFWs. It's something that you see all across government, right? Ang daming the same documents na hinihingi ng iba't ibang mga ahensya.
True, and I found that out for example, at the POLO offices, or the POLO stands for Philippine Overseas Labor Office, the labor attaché already accepts the requirements from foreign employers. So there's already a verification or evaluation process on site. And then I found out that this same verification process, as approved already by the labor attaché, is again being reviewed here at the Home Office. And there are evaluators assigned to double check, counter check, and then after the counter checking of the work that has already been done on site by the labor attaché, then it will be signed by, I think, 4 offices. No? So we see really no logic in that. You either trust your labor attaché or you don't.
Right.
So by looking at that process flow, we immediately saw some steps that can be eliminated.
Okay. Interesting that you say that. You either trust your labor attaché or you don't. And also, I might as well add, you either have common sense in your regulations or you don't. So I think that's what you're trying to do, right? That's what the Marcos administration is trying to do. What you're trying to do as Secretary of Migrant Workers, to put some common sense, sentido común naman, hindi ba, sa mga regulasyon?
Yes, because you're going to move the worker anyway from point A to point B. Bakit pa natin patatagalin, Pia? And yung nagpapatagal, gobyerno. The faster that the worker can proceed to his or her employer without compromising, of course, his the worker safety and human rights,
Mm-mm.
then the faster he can earn
Right.
and send back to his
Yeah.
family.
Oh.
Oo.
Yung binabanggit mo kanina, Secretary Toots, yung to avoid the redundancy that you discovered, to make things, to simplify things. Ito ba yung sinasabi ni Pangulong Marcos na gagawing mula 3 months down to 3 weeks? This is it, right?
Yes, yan yung period, yan yung length of time for a foreign employer to even get accredited. Iba pa yung mismong hiring process. So it really is, it's too long and we're losing labor markets because of that.
Okay. Another point the President brought up during his SONA was the issue about simplifying the handbook. Ang sabi nga niya, 240 sections, gagawing pamphlet na lamang na hindi hihigit sa 100 pahina. 240 sections, so down to how many sections and how many pages is it and down to how many pages will it be then?
What the President was referring to was the very convoluted and voluminous rules and regulations of the POEA that both the recruitment agency, the manning agency, and the worker must be made familiar with. Ang problema doon, Pia, is that if you don't have a lawyer with you, mahirap i-navigate yung rules. So, ang sabi namin, hiwalay na lang ang rules sa skilled workers because their skills are their best protection and they can articulate their rights, no? Because they're more experienced. Hiwalay ang rules sa vulnerable occupations like domestic workers. Doon talagang dapat klaro ang safeguards from the point of application to the point of return. And then sa seafarers, dahil meron silang global standards, mas simplified and mas madali and mas maiksi na yung rules kasi they're covered by a lot of international agreements anyway. So yun ang nakikita namin and just make the language simpler, the number of sections, it's more compact, easier to understand.
The One Repatriation Command Center, even before the President's SONA, ay nabanggit na ito. You had a launching for this. But can you give us a little bit more details? No? Like, for example, there are already labor attachés in different posts all around the world, no? Philippine embassies, etc. But we know that that's not enough, no? And sometimes, kapag halimbawa may mangyari, yung the simple task of, going to where the distressed OFW is can take quite a while, no? Ang daming problema. So how is this One Repatriation Command Center going to address logistics and similar problems?
Again, sabi mo nga, it's the uncommon common sense principle at play. We already have POEA to be consolidated within the department. OWA is there. We have the labor attachés. So bakit pa namin pahihirapan? Bakit pa magtuturuan? Ano? And we have very good relations with the DFA. So naisip namin, One Repat Command Center na lang, kami na ang magtatrabaho, kami na ang kakausap sa DFA. So a family of the OFW is in very exploitative conditions or who is stranded abroad, pwede na lang sa amin dumulog. Tatawag na lang sa 1348, that is the hotline. Pwede rin mag-email sa repat@dmw.gov.ph. Tapos, kami na rin ang mag-a-advise sa family kung nasaan na yung worker, nasa shelter na ba, o kaya naghihintay na lang ng ticket, hanggang sa pag-uwi, anong oras yung flight, saan susunduin. And so it's the power of information eh. Minsan, nagtataka ako bakit kailangan pa ipagkait. And, so the journey of the OFW home will be in step with information being given to the family.
In other words, you want to avoid keeping people in the dark, the families in the dark, which is what would happen very often I mean, by no real fault of anyone. It's just that's the way things were done before, right?
Yes, it's like working in silos. So the one in charge of repatriation is not discussing the case with the one who is handling the family. So we're breaking barriers so that the information flow will be seamless. From the start that the request was made, whoever referred the case will receive information and updates until the worker is returned home. The flow of information will keep going on.
Communication is key. That is common sense. Secretary Toots, my one last question. Binanggit na nga ng Pangulong Marcos yung tutungo kayo sa Saudi Arabia. Can you tell us why that trip is going to be so important?
Thank you, Pia, for asking that question. This morning, Secretary Benny Laguesma and I met with the Saudi ambassador and the labor attaché assigned here at the Saudi embassy. So we discussed my impending trip and also the potential agreements that can be reached. I informed them about the concerns of claimants of unpaid wages dating back 2016 because a lot of construction companies in Saudi Arabia at that time declared bankruptcy. So, and we also informed them that we have 700 workers in various embassy shelters across Saudi Arabia in need of help, in need of repatriation assistance. And so they are very much open to discussing all of these things. They are open also to discussing a possible bilateral agreement against human trafficking. And so there will be initial talks here in Manila between, of course, the Saudi ambassador, the labor attaché, and the DMW team. And then I'll be sending an advance party to Saudi Arabia to jumpstart the talks.
Well, good luck for that trip, Secretary Toots Ople of the Migrant Workers Department. Thank you very much for being with us tonight, ma'am. We'll be back after a quick break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. This is Politics as usual. My next guest, Senate Minority Leader Coco Pimentel, who's joining us also via Zoom. Senator Coco, thank you very much for being with us tonight. Well, let's begin with this. Now, why didn't the Cayetano siblings, so Senators Pia and Alan, just join you? Why do they need to be independent? Bakit hindi sila mag-oposisyon? We all know, halimbawa, na Senator Alan, who ran for Vice President in 2016, did go after then Senator Bongbong Marcos.
Well, we better ask them why, because actually this is an unusual block, the independent block. Although those who are familiar with Senate history tell me that this is not the first time that somebody a senator declared himself to be an independent. So siguro thereafter more flexibility. So their stand, their default position or their attitude towards different measures would be more unpredictable if you are an so-called independent bloc rather than a minority or the minority. Because if you are with the minority, you are actually expected to, give out some contrary opinion or observation or position to the measure being tackled on the floor.
When you say unpredictable, Senator Coco, what you mean also is that they could be like swing, in a way, no? Swing votes. O kailangan pa ba ng swing vote? Kasi super majority. Oo, super majority na ang majority eh.
Correct. That's correct. But then, as far as the the two of them are concerned, so there is no expectation as to where they will be coming from because they are an independent bloc. So they could, from the very start, no, they could be supportive of the majority proposal. They could also be against it and then side with the minority. At the start, because that's the initial position of the minority to have to bring a critical mind to all of the proposals on the floor. But there will be measures where we will have a unanimous vote, Pia.
Like what? Like which ones, for example?
That is possible. Like ang tinatawag ni Senator Risa Ontiveros and ni SP Migs na happy bills.
Happy bills, yes. These are
There
the
so-called happy bills na we will all rally behind a certain proposal because it makes sense. It is the good. The benefit is so obvious that we will rally behind it. So yan yung mga happy bills, mga 24-0 yan. Magkasama kaming lahat dyan.
Yeah, like which ones are these again, Senator Coco? Yung mga happy bills na magta 24-0.
In the past, yes, in the past, for example, yung mga bills for children to improve their situation, solo parents, women, more protection for women, mga ganyan.
Yeah, right.
Mga happy bills yan. Walang
kokontra.
Walang kokontra, no resistance from the minority, maybe even no interpellation from the minority.
It won't make sense kapag kumontra pa kayo, in other words. Diba? Senator Coco, can you tell us, syempre sa setup ng Senado, of course, a majority of the most coveted committee chairmanships go to the majority, and then parang konti na lang or konti na lang mapupunta sa minority, right? So can you tell us about that setup? And then describe to us what's going to happen, for example, for the Commission on Appointments, the Presidential Electoral Tribunal. Meron pa bang participation ng minority dito, or is this just a majority, or in this case, a super majority concern?
Separate rules yan, Pia. For the Senate, the members of the majority will get the more powerful committees or the more interesting committees. Okay na yun, that's accepted fact. So
yes.
I will not get any committee chairmanship because I am minority leader. I am automatically member of all the committees. Senator Risa, my other fellow minority member, got the Committee on Women, Children, and Family Relations. So okay na yun because that is what she chaired during the last Congress. So no complaints na po dyan. So and then pagdating po sa CA, it's a matter of looking for your partner, and then a pair will get one seat in the CA. In the SET po, Senate Electoral Tribunal, it's a matter of getting a group of 4, and every group of 4 will get one seat.
Okay. Itong kanina nabanggit na nga ninyo, no, like for example, yung mga happy bills, 24-0 yan, no, wala nang kokontra. But there will be times that you will, of course, oppose because that is what you do as the minority. So can you give us an idea, no, of the road ahead? Which pieces of legislation, for example, which issues are you in the minority, the opposition in the Senate, going to be very strong on?
Ang usapan namin ni Senator Risa, tax measures. Okay? We will examine in detail each and every word up to the punctuation mark of tax measures. Because ang position po ng minority, no new taxes, especially if imposed on the poor, on the majority of the people. Hindi ganon kasi that is an indirect tax. So yan ang aming position. So ilang ulit na rin namin sinabi yan. So alam na ng majority yan. That if it's a tax measure on the floor, expect lengthy, thorough, and detailed interpellation from the minority.
Mhm. My final question, of course, the reality on the ground, Senator Coco, is that, well, you know, apart from the happy bills that you mentioned earlier, there will be pieces of legislation where you will need to reach across the aisle and you will need that extra push from members of the majority or the supermajority, again, in this case. So there will be those opportunities for working, as you've always done anyway, as the minority senators always did in the last Congress, right?
Yes, we will be constructive, cooperative. In fact, we will cooperate if we believe that the measure will will be for the good of the country, for the good of the people, not a burden to the people, and addresses important issues faced or problems faced by the people. Tutulong po tayo dyan. Pero kami sa minority at a two-member minority, ang usapan na namin, one of our guiding principles would be no new taxes.
All
Okay,
right.
so if it is a tax proposal, then that is now an alarm bell for us, and then we will have to examine the tax proposal.
Final words, Senator Coco?
We are here to help this administration also succeed, because we have only one country, my dear Filipinos, my countrymen. So magtulungan lang po tayo. Dapat magtulungan tayo. But of course, dalhin natin yung ating critical mind ulit nga sa ating mga session para with the purpose of improving the proposed measures. Yan po yung ating default attitude. Improve. Pero pagka hindi naman maganda ang sadya, oppose na tayo.
Senate Minority Leader Coco Pimentel. Sir, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Straight ahead on politics as usual, House Minority Leader Marcelino Nonoy Libanan joining us live via Zoom also. Keep it here on CNN Philippines.
RPN, Radio Philippines Network Incorporated, DXKO. 13.68 sa dial sa inyong radyo. RPN DXKO, ang Radyo Ronda, dili sa Dakbayan sa Cagayan de Oro. Sibiyahan na may galaon sa katawhan, andam mo serbisyo sa tanan. Ang RPN DXKO Radyo Ronda, sakop sa KBP, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Sol, nakaw ko yung HIV?
Nakighilawas ka ba nga walay proteksyon? Nakaagi ka ba og sexually transmitted infection? Nagagamit ka ba og ginadili nga droga? Kung duna kay pagduda o pangutana, bisita sa Alagad Mindanao Facebook page o tawag sa 0930-247-9988. Ang imong pagkatao protektado. Ani kami andam maminaw ug moalagad kanimo. Kini nga mensahe gikan sa Alagad Mindanao ug KBP ug niining estasyon.
Ani-ana niining sibihan inyong masundan, pagtanaw o pagpaminaw ang tumumanon sa Back to Christ Revelation Healing Crusade of Father Lahi. Usa ka oras kini nga programa sa espirituhanong pagtulunan kausa sa matag simana dinhi lamang sa RPN DXKO Teleradyo. Sunda ang mga mensahe ipaabot sa Back to Christ Revelation Healing Crusade of Father Lahi sa matang Domingo alas 5 hangtod alas 6 sa buntag.
Buhay!
sa lunch break with a tourniquet and job. Mag-ready na ta, ka 11:30 na. Abogado nga ambungan nga duha. Dinhi sa lunch break with a tourniquet and job. Dinhi sa lunch break with a tourniquet and job. Dinhi sa lunch break with a tourniquet and job. Wow, negosyo ang lifestyle. Dinhi lang sa lunch break with a tourniquet and job. Dinhi sa lunch break with a tourniquet and job. Dinhi sa lunch break.
Lunch break with Attorney Ken Tamala and Attorney Joff Namalata. Sabado, 11:30 sa buntag hangtod 12:30 sa hapon sa RPN TV5 o DXKO Radio.
Happy Fiesta Cagayan de Oro sa Agosto 28. Karong tuiga, balik na ang mga kalihukan sa Higalaay Festival 2022. Mao nga, balik na ang kasadya sa Carnival Street Dance Competition, Higalaay Street Parade and Flows, Kahimunan Trade Fair, Religious and Fluvial Procession, Agri-Fair and Garden Show, Miss Cagayan de Oro ug daghanan pa mga naandan nga programa painungod sa patron sa syudad, Senyor San Agustin. Viva Senyor San Agustin! Ang pagpasalamat alang sa kalinaw, kalambuan ug maayong panglawas sa tanan. Greetings gikan sa RPN DXKO Teleradyo Cagayan de Oro. Walay lipod-lipod nga motuki sa mga nagunang issue sa palibot. Patas nga mohatod sa mga impormasyon nga angay tang masayran sa atong katilingban karon. Susan Live matag Biyernes sa gabi, alas 7 ngadto sa alas 8 dinhi lamang sa RPN TV5 o DXKO Radio nga adunay streaming sa Facebook.
Anyari sa'yo? Ba't nakasimangot ka? Alam ko na. Masakit ang katawan mo, ano? Sa sobrang trabaho? O di kaya masakit ang ulo sa sobrang stress? Break ka muna. Hinga ng malalim at imasahe ang ulo mo gamit ang Herbalaya Liniment Oil. Ako rin ganun eh. Kaya pag mataas ang tensyon sa trabaho, mag-Herbalaya break ka muna.
Herbalaya Liniment Oil. Amoy na kaaya-aya sa bawat pahid.
RPN, Radio Philippines Network Incorporated, DXKO. 13 sa Zinday Utso sa dial sa inyong radyo. RPN DXKO, ang Radyo Ronda, TV sa Dakbayan sa Cagayan de Oro. Sibiyahan na may galaon sa katawhan, andang serbisyo sa tanan. Ang RPN DXKO Radyo Ronda, sakop sa KBP, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Yan sila ng pag-asa tungkol dito sa kanilang karamdaman. Recently na sawi yung isa nating kaibigan, di ba? Dahil dito sa sakit na breast cancer at nakakalungkot na hindi man lang natin siya nakausap o nabigyan ng mga pampalakas loob tungkol dun sa kanyang sitwasyon. And it took her 3 years na tinitiis itong kanyang sakit. Hindi siya nagpagamot, Dr. Mildred.